Hey guys, this is Lucid. Some of you may know that I made a mod called no off script buffing, and it worked pretty well. There were a few reasons for it. One was so that casters wouldn't sit in the back lines and cast a bunch of dumb spells like Body Ethereal instead of useful things that might help them win the battle. But even more importantly, it was so they would cast smart things against assassins. And hopefully that would turn Assassinations into a game rather than into some kind of completely predatory mechanic like it is in the game today. And anyway, it worked at doing that. It had one side effect, which basically I ended up kind of changing the mod and then mostly muting a lot of the features on it so that it kind of could be used in multiplayer games. But ranged AoE buffs, not self buffs, those are also disabled because the AI will cast those in Assassinations if you don't disable them. But they would, basically, if you cast Strength of Giants, the way that we worked around not having a command to actually keep the AI from casting a spell we would want it to, is we'd use a dummy spell, and it would basically say, just, here's a spell you never want to cast. If you script it, it'll cast it, and it will target like an AoE thing, and it would actually like reduce your morale by 1 or something, or add morale by 1. It would target this AoE and then it would cast it, but then on top of that, wherever that same spell targeted, it would call another spell to be cast, which would actually do Strength of Giants. And anyway, the problem was it would end up, because of the way the AI casting for the first one worked, it wouldn't check to see if Strength of Giants was there because it wasn't doing Strength of Giants casting. So you could end up layering Strength of Giants multiple times on the same place or other kind of AoE buffs. So it kind of worked, but because there were significant side effects, I don't think it ended up being ready for multiplayer. And we didn't find out about those until kind of after I did the announcement video, even though we'd kind of tested it some. Because everything looked fine, like the Assassinations worked, all that. So, there's been a patch, and a much requested feature has been released, and there's 3 new AI commands. One is AI spell mod, which decreases or increases the likelihood of an AI casting a spell. The second is it's AI no cast, which means it will never cast that spell off script. And the third is it will prevent you from casting the spell if you're above a certain level. Now the third I haven't really used that much, and there's a few reasons why you might not want to. Like if it's basically, early in the game, you might not have better things that Higher Mage can cast, and if you completely rule it off, then they're not going to cast it. So I think the better solution is just make better higher level spells more preferential for mages to cast. That way, if they are a higher level, they'll end up casting. So that's kind of what I've done in the mod. But what I want to do to show it off, there's a few things. We're going to look at Assassinations. Most of the Assassinations you will find work very, very similar. How I kind of did the testing for the no off script buffing. But because they have given us the ability to increase and decrease the likelihood of a spell being cast, I've also increased the scope of the mod. And the mod now is to improve AI spell casting in general. What I have here is a test battle pulled up with some garbage over here and then a bunch of casters over here. Now, all these casters, they're not normally mages, so I've empowered them all to different paths. We have 4 fire, 3 fire, 2 fire, 1 fire, and they each have a number of gems corresponding to what path they are. And the same for air, and then water, and then earth, and then astral, and then death, and then nature, and then blood. So anyway, we have all of these mages, and they go from 4 to 1, and they have some gems on them. Now, the script I have given all of them is cast, 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 so 3 casts in position, then advance and cast spells. So hopefully we'll get to see a few things. We'll get to see if they're standing still and they're kind of far away from the enemy, how do they tend to use their gems when they're off script? We'll get to see when they're out of gems, what spells do they tend to use when they're off script? And then we'll get to see what they do when they're on advance and cast spells and they get in close to the enemy. I also have scripted this army. Somebody back here, one of these guys. I also have some Bakumeto sorcerers, so we'll see if we see some Banefires. But I've also scripted one of these guys to do Army of Gold or Lead, I can't remember, on this army, so that it runs in close and doesn't die. Because anyway, it's not a ton of really strong dudes, and these are like trolls, and there's some undead. It's just a mix of stuff. Anyway, so anyway, it won't die, and hopefully the battle drags on. We get to see what I'll get the mages use. Now, this is going to be I have this game backed up, and so we're going to look at it now without the mod working. I basically have the mod on, like it's in the game, but I've commented all the code so that none of it should apply. And so this will be default casting. And then afterwards, we'll see what it does when we essentially enable the mod. So let's go through and watch. So we see a bunch of buffs coming out, Marble Warriors, Quickening, all these things. Now they're doing some useful things, and this is one of the reasons I'll just point out. If you're playing single player, do not use this mod, I don't think. Because, like, what the AI in single player will do is they will put their gems on mages, and then they'll put their mages into combat, and the combat mages will use, they're basically off script the whole time. So, they're going to do useful things like buff up their army with Fog Warriors and Mass Regen and Mass Protection, which is what just happened here. And then a bunch of resistance buffs too. So, and then he casts Bloodletting, which is pretty dangerous to cast off script. We have Legions of Steel coming out. We have Lightning Bolt, Liquid Body, Dust to Dust, more Legions of Steel. Now the question is not whether we win this fight or not, right? So don't pay attention to that. The question is, what are they casting? We can see Panic coming out, Leech, Life After Death, Battle Fortune. You see, they really like buffs. And you have to think about it. If you're thinking from a single player game, buffs are really good. Like, I love casting buffs on my armies. So when you're scripting buffs, buffs are great to cast. And the AI will not cast buffs in general if you're already cast that buff. Like, if everybody's set with Mass Protection, it's really not going to cast it again. If you summon a bunch of troops, it might. So that is it. This is basically not a bad way for it to work if you're playing single player. So it's kind of hard, I think, to come up with a one-size-fits-all. Like, if this mod were ever to be kind of, which I would be totally cool with, by the way, for parts of it to be kind of imported into vanilla, into the base game, where they just put default AI mod spell mod parameters in for these spells. If the developers were to do that, what I think they should do, because if they want to preserve the single player experience, is to have this mod effectively only active for human-controlled nations. If it's a AI-controlled nation, then that nation would not have this mod active because you want them to be able to buff their spells. This mod will enable or prevent the AI from ever buffing up their troops. Anyway. So there is that. But now we can look at what they're casting. A bunch of Raised Dead, more Legions of Steel, Temper Flesh, Frozen Heart, Charge Body, Panic, Body Ethereal, Transfer Pain, Touch of Madness, Luck, Frozen Heart, a little bit of Falling Frost, Pillar of Fire, Lesser Fire Elemental, more Panic, more Raised Dead, more Frighten, Cleansing Waters, Lightning Bolt, Liquefy, that's a good spell, Panic, Body Ethereal, it's hard to tell who's going to win here. More Body Ethereal, and this is what's really annoying when you're playing. You bring all these mages and you're hoping they do useful things, and then they end up casting things like Panic and Frighten, and then instead of doing useful stuff, they all sit in the back and they spam out like Body Ethereal. Now, some of these guys have walked forward, and that, like, these fire guys are doing okay. They're walking forward, they're doing Pillar of Fire, which is pretty much good all game. And then Falling Fires, which is good if they don't have Army of Gold. And you can see they're preferentially targeting these trolls, which have a fire weakness. And that's That's basically it. So you can see they did a lot of buffing, not a lot of combat evocation, and then once they're done, the thing that you're kind of not seeing from this is if I manually scripted all the buffing, a lot of these guys fatigue themselves out casting buffs. You can see they're kind of coming off fatigue now and doing some things, most of which aren't terribly useful, like they wake up, they cast Body Ethereal or something. But if I cast the buffing, they would also do oftentimes a lot of these buff things off script. They wouldn't do the kinds of things we usually want them to do. And I don't know if anybody's going to wake up or cast more useful things. This little weird aura around them is a sleep aura. It only affects enemies, so I believe. But, yeah. Okay, so that's it. So I'm going to go reload the game, and we're going to pull it up. We're going to turn the mod on. Okay, guys, and we're back. The turn just loaded. Or not turn, but I've rerun it with the mod active now. So we'll go ahead and we'll watch the battle. We'll see what's cooking. Okay, so you can see right off the bat, no buffs got cast. It's possible, because it's a little hard to filter, well, maybe not. It's possible I've missed a buff or two, but I don't think so. Like earlier I found I missed Gift of the Hair, and I saw that get cast in here. So this is one way that I've kind of been debugging it, is to let this run and see what they cast. But anyway, let's look at what got cast here. We see Terror coming out, which Terror is a spell we actually don't really want these guys to cast very much. Enslave Mind, this is like the wet dream of astral mages, of astral players, is that their astral mages are going to cast Enslave Mind off script. This guy casts Weapons of Sharpness, which actually is a buff, so I actually probably should take that off. It's pretty damn useful, though, and it's pretty high magic path. But it could get cast in an Assassination, so I may take that off. I'm not sure. It's also a super useful buff, so it's almost kind of worth leaving on as part of the script, since most mages aren't going to be able to cast it, and if they're a high enough mage to cast it, it might be a good thing to leave it in, but we might take that off. I'll have to test a Troll King to see if he with Earth Boots or something will cast that in an Assassination script instead of something like Earth Elementals. And then we see Lightning Bolt, Pillar of Fire, bunch of nukes coming down. So you have to imagine, if you're a player, you script your own army to do all the buffs, and then these guys are doing things we kind of want them to do. Leech coming out, Summon Imps, Creeping Doom. Bloodletting, okay, I thought I deprioritized that. I need to actually deprioritize that more. So when you're watching this video, I'll have deprioritized it more. I reduced its chance of being cast by like 50%, but the AI really likes that spell. Ooh, Life After Death, I need to get that too. So I'm gonna get both those. So anyway, that's two more I have to get. But I have gotten most of them. You can see they're casting a bunch of elementals. They love casting elementals now. Leech. Now, don't worry about the effectiveness. Like, these guys, the elementals are getting cluttered around the mages. They may burn them up and stuff. So obviously this is not a good battle formation or anything. This is just set up so we can see what they cast. But they like elementals, and if you give extra gems to your mages when they're off script, normally players like for you to cast elementals too. Here they're casting Hydrophobia. I forget what that does, but that's not something you really hardly ever see in vanilla. Wither Bones getting dropped. Disintegrate. People love Disintegrate. You can see Weapons of Sharpness going down again, which I would never be upset with if I saw a mage casting Weapons of Sharpness in a team fight. The only issue with that is Assassinations again. Magma Eruption coming back here from these guys. I have not seen any Banefire, which we'll have to look for. I might have to increase the chances of Banefire a little bit, but it's actually a good time. We're going to take a little vignette and talk about how the AI spellcasting actually works. When every mage goes to cast a spell, and this is my understanding, I haven't been told, especially from Illwinter, I've just been reading through log manuals and things like that, but it's going to basically run through each spell and say, should I cast it? Now, how does it do that? Does it just say, do I like this spell? Do I not like it? No. It has to look, like each mage has to look at what's around it and see if there's a good target. And once it's found a target, it's going to say, how good would it be for the battle if I cast this spell? Now, how sophisticated it actually answers that question, I would say is very suspect. But it's looking at things like, do they have resistances? Do they have magic resistance? Do they have armor? Are units clumped together? Am I likely to get friendly fire? It is considering all these very important things that you would want to consider. But sometimes it doesn't know that the spell it's considering it for is effing horrible. So, yeah. And, like, if it doesn't like an evocation, it's like, oh, it's risky, we might miss. Let's just do Body Ethereal on my buddy who's standing next to me, right? But anyway, back to kind of understanding the mechanics of how it works. It gives a rating to each spell based on all these situational things. Now, you can't... We do not have the ability as modders to affect what's inside that box. How it actually goes through and says, should I cast this spell based on all these situational things, which, quite frankly, it would be a very daunting task. It would be one I would be up for. It would be fun. But it would be daunting. I mean, it would be... to do it well would probably be 100 hours of work. Anyway, it would be fun, though. That would be a lot of fun if the devs asked me to do that. But instead, so you have to, at the end of this process, they've looked at each spell, they've said, where is the best spot to cast it, and if I cast it, how good will it be? When they say how good would it be, they give it a number, and that number is like the spell value, let's call it, how valuable that spell is. What the mod does is it can multiply that value by a percentage. It can multiply it by, like, 1% to make it, like, 1% of what it was, right? Or it can multiply it by 200% to make it twice as big. The way you actually code it is to get a 1%, you would actually do -99 in the mod file, but that's kind of neither here nor there since most of you aren't going to be coding it. But and the way you would do 200 is you put 100. So anyway, it's you basically are scaling the in-game logic for whether you should cast a spell or not. Now, what this allows us to do is it allows us to layer on top of this intelligence they have going on in the background. It allows us to layer on top what players have come to a consensus on, which is, if at all possible, if anything in the underlying layers is giving me an inkling that this might be a good spell, cast this spell. Now, doing that in conjunction with disabling all the off-script buffing, where they're going to cast a bunch of useless things off-script, now we start getting pretty useful spell casting, like Frozen Heart getting spammed out, Starfire is getting spammed out, Witherbones, Leech, Heal. I can't remember the last time I've ever seen Heal. Could situationally be good, actually, if you have like an army of really beefy dudes and it's healing up your big dudes. Liquefy, like all these are good spells. Phantasmal Warrior, God, oh man, I have to nuke that again. That's a spell I don't like, and I've already nuked the priority of it. So just every time I watch this, I find a few more things. But like I've already deprioritized it, but I need to deprioritize it more. This guy should be doing... There's not a ton an Air 1 can do. Like he can't do Lightning Bolt. I'm not sure. This guy, the Air 2, should not be casting Phantasmal Warrior ever. We'll keep an eye on him. Yeah, he casts Lightning Bolt. Maybe there's not another good air spell for this guy to cast. Maybe Air 1s are kind of sentenced to that. Dust to Dust, Storm of Thorns, Enslave Mind, Liquefy, Starfires, Liquefy, Incinerate. Everybody loves Incinerate. Drain Life. What are our Astral guys doing? High level Astral. Let's take a look at what these two guys are. Right here. Charm coming out. That's a spell players love. Earth Grip, that's a spell people like. Now, what I did to kind of figure out which spells we want to buff is I did a poll in Althea's Discord server, and in my Discord server, and basically asked people to go say which spells they wish the AI cast more. And then all those spells I went and buffed up. And then I haven't done enough iterations of it, and I might do a couple more before this video gets put up. Yeah, I basically just went and increased the value for those. And then I kind of know what are the bad spells that the AI casts when they go off script. So I nuked those. I didn't really I asked people too, and people kind of chimed in, but we didn't do an official poll. But it's things like Frighten. I've got a Zabalba series coming up where you're going to hear me rant and rave and curse and say things that you shouldn't say on YouTube just because of the Frighten spell. Web coming out. Steel Breath. That's a spell actually you kind of want to deprioritize, but it's an Air 1. What are they going to do? Liquefy. Cleansing Waters. There's a lot of undead. These are all very good spells. Frozen Heart. Lightning Bolt. If we look up here, these guys are getting very close to combat. Liquefy, Ghost Grip. Okay, that's an Air 1. Still doing a Steel Breath. Wither Bones. I mean, this is what you want. We don't have a ton of Horde of Skeleton. Okay, Raise Dead I also try to deprioritize so they cast Horde of Skeletons more. Where are my death guys? Is this a death guy? This is a death guy. What is he casting? He's pretty tired. Blade Wind also got deprioritized a little bit, but I don't know what it's looking at. It's probably looking at some of these... Maybe these satyrs? It's probably looking at some of these satyrs, and like they don't have a lot of protection. Or maybe it's looking at some of this undead trying to hit it with Blade Wind. I might deprioritize Blade Wind a little more. It's really high fatigue. It's very good in some situations, so I don't want to deprioritize it too much. Flame Eruption coming out. Boom. Now I don't have Relief or Reinvigoration on a lot of these guys, so they fatigue out pretty good. Curse of the Frog Prince, Frozen Heart. Curse of the Frog Prince got buffed, I think. So anyway, I hope this kind of illustrates that these guys, like, you would be proud of them if you were their mage parents. It's not perfect. There's some things you still don't see that I kind of have really tried to get in there, like, and we can watch it again. Let's watch the Nature Mages. I was trying to get, like, Sleep Cloud and Poison Cloud in there, and the AI does not give it very high ratings. Okay, so our Nature Mages should be right here. Okay, so let's watch this row, see what they do. Charm, which we like. Storm of Thorns, which people like. Storm of Thorns, it just does not like Sleep Cloud, really, is what it is. And when they're all clumped up like this, this is when you would kind of want to cast it. I might have to increase it even more. I have it at, like... I have Sleep Cloud and Poison the highest of any spell right now. They're at, like, 200% mod... I mean, they're at, like, 300% increase. The AI just still will not cast it. So, this is going to be a little bit of a work in progress. I think it opens up more interesting things. I think mage play in Dominions is one of the really cooler parts. Like, if you were to play a troop-only game, it would be really boring. The mages are one of the coolest parts of Dominions, so I think making them do things, like, do good spells instead of bad ones, opens up a lot more variety of strategies. So, I'm pretty excited about this. I'm really super stoked that the devs, that they did this. I don't know if they did it for me in particular, because I know other people have asked for it, but I've basically been begging for it. So anyway, I'm very thankful for that. And, really happy that it all seems to work well. Not only, I mean, the mod commands work perfectly, but then this mod seems to be working nice too now. So yeah, no Sleep Cloud. It's okay. I'll accept minor defeats. Not every spell we want to gets cast. But, I mean, if my nature mages are casting things like Charm and instead of Sleep Cloud, I can survive. Yeah. So that's it. I think this actually... I think if you want to see the no-off script buffing, like how it's going to improve scripts, I'll just do a quick summary. We'll do one here, just because I've already got it pulled up. I don't know who we're going to fight. 1 second. Okay, so I've got it pulled back up. I basically avoided the battle, pulled this army in so the mages still have their gems on them, and we're going to seduce 5 mages. And this is with the mod turned on. If you don't know what happens when you don't have this mod enabled, and I don't know if these will be good, we might have to do it a couple times. What basically happens is these guys do self-buffs instead of useful things. Okay, well this guy can't actually carry blood slaves in, so he's probably gonna die. Hopefully we got an interesting one here. This guy should have... Oh, he has no gems. Oh, I think my guys use gems. 1 second. Let me take a few more of these dryads and send them in. And then we'll take... Oh, shit. Okay, I'm gonna pause and regem these guys. So here we go. We're gonna seduce, and then we'll just copy this script. Like so, and then everybody here should have gems, so we'll hopefully get to see some interesting things here. Okay, so let's take a look at these. This again is with the mod enabled. So this guy's got 3 fire gems. Fire guys actually kind of were okay in combat before. But in general, they would probably, like they might do Phoenix Pyre, which is not horrible. Fire guys are actually one of the better guys in Assassinations, because there's not a lot of fire self-buffs is the reason. But anyway, he may die here too. No, he's gonna be okay. So anyway, that was a success. Here... Okay, this guy must have just been a blood dude, yeah. Who do we have here? Another blood dude, he's dead. You don't bring blood slaves into combat, which means these guys are completely fucked. A death one, he'll do Horde of Skeletons, because they like that. He's still dead, probably. There's a chance skeletons... Oh man, if he lives... This would never happen. Never. He'd do skeletal body or something else. Having a death one guy with 1 death gem kill a dryad with 2 swarm spams never happened in vanilla. Not in 100 years. I don't think. That's probably not true. It probably could happen, but I don't think so. I don't think it's very likely. Okay, so that was that guy. Got a battle here. Mind Burn. That is, if you're an Astral Mage and you go into an assassination, you are at a severe freaking disadvantage. It is horrible. It's one of the worst paths to get assassinated if you have no gear. So this guy's, his only hope was that Mind Burn hit at the beginning and killed you. That was the best spell he could have cast, so that's AI working perfectly. It's just a pretty bad matchup. And he only cast that Mind Burn actually because he had a... So we have an Earth Mage. Okay, he wins. And then finally down here we have the last battle. Let's see if this is an interesting one. Oh, this is the same guy. He has no Earth Gem, so he's gonna die now. Oh no, he does Blade Wind. See, he would normally die. Because normally he would do Iron Skin, Temper Flesh. None of that's gonna save you from bugs. So anyway, if we look through the results, we killed the Dryad at least as many times as she... No, more times than they killed us, I think. And some of these were the blood guys who just have no hope. So, what this means is that if you put gems on your mage, now one thing that's important, and a lot of people don't know this, I didn't know this for a long time, is that if you have conservative gem use, your script does not carry over to assassinations if you're getting assassinated. You can't put a script in for getting assassinated. But conservative gem use does carry over. So if you have conservative gem use checked, it will not use gems in assassinations. And you can understand why, because you could burn important mages' gems in an assassination, but unfortunately, it should really be a separate checkbox, because a lot of times if you get assassinated, you want to use the gems because there's a pretty good fucking chance you're going to die. So better to have the mage alive and in combat than dead. But I can understand the logic for not doing it. But ideally it would be a separate one. But because it is the same, if you're worried about assassins, you may want to turn this off. If you think that mage may get assassinated, because now, if you give mages gems, so like let's say you have a fire mage, you give them fire gems, there's a very good chance they're going to kill the assassin. Unless the assassin knows you're going to do that, and they know you have fire mages, and they put fire gear on, and then they're immune to fire elementals, because you have enough fire resistance, fire elementals don't do anything. And then the game evolves, right? So, or whatever it is, they have something that's good at killing fire elementals, or they jump you before you can summon one. I don't even know what the game would be, but I think that's the important thing. It's a game. Like, are you going to have gems on your mages? What types of mages do you have? Can they come up with an assassin that will be good against that type of mage? So anyway, that's the main reason actually I ended up starting on this project, was to fix this. And I think just judging by these results, it's pretty fixed. Now, these are not hard assassins, like they don't have water bottles or anything like that. But if, the mages were not hard mages either. We didn't give them water bottles. We didn't give them any assassin gear. And I've had like thug or super combatants die with anti-assassin gear to assassins because they sat there doing iron skin, temper flesh and stuff, which whatever may not help them. Though that was probably actually before the swarm nerf. But anyway, that is it. This is going to be under active development for a while. So if you guys have feedback, if y'all want to swing by my Discord channel, I guess I don't really normally link to it in my games. I mean, my videos, but I'll put a link to it, a permanent link in this video. You can hop in. We host games there time to time. And I've just opened it up where other people can host games on there too. So if you want to host a game, just PM me. I think I want to have it where like people, maybe not at the start, but at some point I'm going to kind of limit who can host to people that have kind of been playing in my channel. And then once you kind of join, you can join a game. But anyway, that's a separate story. But anyway, I'll put a link to my Discord channel in the description. You can hop in there, check it out, leave feedback on this if you have a spell you like. I'm going to be kind of going off of a consensus, though, not any one person. But if one person has very good feedback, I of course can include that. So anyway, I'll also have a link in the description for the mod itself. And hope you guys enjoy it. Take care.